But now in studio, I have Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury and Mason County Undersheriff Jim Barrett. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning.
Been a little while since I've seen you, Undersheriff. How have you been?
Been very well, sir. I appreciate you asking.
Good. We've got a lot of things to talk about. There's been a lot of things going on in the news with the Sheriff's Office and other law enforcement, and it's really already... We're just about wrapping up January, but we've already seen you guys put in a lot of work with a couple of homicides, and then recently, just yesterday, there was another one, or over the weekend, another sheriff?
It's occurred in another county, but it involves our county.
Okay.
And so our people have to be involved. And quite honestly, my concern last week when we were in a budget or a briefing last week, we were told that if we go over our overtime or we go over anywhere in our budget, we're going to lose staff. And so my challenge this weekend, we're going to commend Commissioner Shuddy for answering the phone for us. I call and ask, do you want us to go or do you want to have somebody else do it? Because if we do this, it's overtime, and by the end of the year, starting off like this, we're already going to be over. And so, you know, I really appreciate him saying, you need to do what you need to do. We need to take care of our citizens. But that's not the message we got earlier in the week. And now I've got people ready to leave and go to other agencies because of that comment. And it's tough. It's once you get on the merry-go-round and saying you're going to lay somebody off if you go over budget, then you have to bring somebody else in on overtime, so you lay them off, and then so you go over budget even more, so you lay them off. Once you're on the merry-go-round, it's tough to get off, and that comment has caused our people to look to leave and go other places.
So,
which
once again, let's go back and talk about this. What was said to you and to the folks in the commission, the session there? So they said that because of the budget. What? Either one of you want to take this one?
Well, I was there in a briefing, and we were talking about a new contract that was going to save the county taxpayers roughly $180,000 to $200,000, and it was a food services contract for our inmates. And as we were briefing on these issues, that led to some savings that could be applied to nursing services for our inmates, which were mandated to take care of. Mm-hmm. And as you know, over the years, we had to outsource many inmates while waiting for the construction of the jail to be done, which is about 2.5 years overdue. In that comment, we also found a way to continue to run the Alternative to Sentencing program, and that's a benefit to the citizens as taxpayers, because what it does is allow the judges and the system to hold people accountable, but not necessarily incarcerate them their first time or for low-tier offenses, using our space wisely for those most egregious offenders. Well, the comment was, when we decided to try and get this alternative program back up, the statement was, well, you do understand that if you go over budget, you're going to have to lay people off. We're not going to have a supplemental. And as I stated to them, well, you're asking me to predict how many major crimes we're going to have, how many sentences and how long the sentences the judges will hand out or the prosecutor works with indigent services. And they're asking us to make comments on things such as the homicides over the weekends. We can't predict these things. So those kind of, I should say, careless statements about predictive analysis is how that came about.
How do you think you're going, let's say you were able to get some more monies in the budget. Do you have places that you've seen in other services in the county that could be directed to you, or how would you suggest to the commissioners that we help to add to your budget over
I think what would really help us is I went over and sat with another commission last week and listened to their comments and see what they're doing, different commissioners. There is no plan. We've been asking since my first year here 10 years ago, do we have a plan of goals and objectives and priorities of government? And we still don't see those. At least last year when we went into budget, we had to produce those, but the county had none. Other counties have a plan and what their priorities are. And we've been asking for this for years and have not seen it. And each leadership training and each budget thing I've been to with other agencies talk about we need to have a plan. And successful places have a plan of action goals, objectives, and priorities for the county government. And we seem to be like an amoeba and just going all over the place. And I think that would really help us. That would be the first thing that needs to happen.
When you talk to other counties, sheriffs, and even county commissioners, how do they work in their budget for this type of thing? Obviously, it is impossible without some sort of minority report computer system to know when these criminals are going to do these crimes. How do they set up their budgets in the event of all these the extras?
They look at what's happened in the past few years. They predict, what costs are going to go up as an employee cost and what you're going to need for the next few years, your population. They consider all these things. Interestingly, all of our counties that are our like counties or comparable counties, they're able to compensate their people correctly. They're able to run their offices correctly without doing this. It's a matter of priority of spending and where you want to spend it. They certainly aren't coming into the same problems that we are. They have the same budget we have with roughly the same population, and they don't seem to be having these same problems.
And I would add that it goes back to what is the mission, vision, goals, or objectives of Mason County, and how does each individual office and or department align its priorities to those missions and visions. And many of those other counties have those. And so as you go into your budget season, you look at what the county's overall direction, vision, and objectives are, and each department or office is expected to align their budgets to that mission, and any increases in expenditures have to complement that mission and objective. One of the things that vexes us is the fact that there was a task force of citizens, of subject matter experts that came into this county, retired folks, others, who gave criminal justice recommendations, not just for the sheriff's office, but for the entire system. And they talked about the needs and the underfunding of those entities within the system. There was the National Institute of Corrections study that was done years ago by a group of commissioners. There was also a King and Associates study about how to best serve your inmates and what you're doing within the system. And for a series of decades now, these commissions or studies are sanctioned, but then no action is taken. And I guess that is a first step. Understand your problem before you apply solutions or potential solutions, but we're getting the studies done, but then we're not doing the follow-through. And I think that is the one issue we have. For example, we've been working diligently for a 3-year phased criminal justice plan for our jail. The first one, to alleviate the overcrowding issues and some unexpected increases in female populations, we had to outsource while we were under construction. That was phase 1. Phase 2 was the implementation of criminal justice system-wide alternative programs to better control the incoming population and make the room necessary that the system needs. Phase 3, obviously and clearly, is going to have to be the jail is an old facility. It's had money put into it, but it's just not going to last much longer. You can only put so much into an old car. And that's phase 3. So we worked to get alternatives in place. Positions were approved in October. We began the civil service process to hire. Then this budget year, they were cut with funding to be implemented back again in July. Well, there's another 6-month gap. We already had just hired one person. And so those are kind of the frustrating issues we have when you ask the question, what do other counties do? They have a goal, they have an objective, they had a vision, and then they have substantial and deliberate steps to accomplish those issues. And that step 2, alternative programs, was just about ready to go, and then the carpet got pulled out. Now, fortunately, Sheriff Salisbury last November directed the Chief Hansen, our new jail chief, and the rest of the command staff to find solutions. And between the group of people we have, we've come up with some very workable solutions that I think are about a $200,000 benefit minimum to the citizens of this county, and we believe that's a good thing.
Where are we at now with the jail? We're at capacity and over capacity, or did you put the limit on there at the...
The jail, actually, if you look back, I got some documentation on it was over capacity after a couple of years after it was open. There were some comments made in there by our Superior Court judge that it's already full.
Yeah.
That was in 80-something. it hasn't, the size of the jail hasn't been increased. We've reconfigured things on the inside a few times. So since 1985 or 86 or 84, whatever it was, that jail's been over capacity. We've known about it. That's why we say I think there was sufficient time for planning.
Sure.
And now with our outsourcing issue, we still, and it's not, please remember, the construction of the jail and the building of the jail is not the sheriff's office. We run the operations. But that has been almost 2.5 years that's been sitting there not done. And I've been told to open it. Well, I can't open it if it's not complete. Mm-hmm. And then we were told at a certain point we would open it, and I had to argue that it wasn't. And guess what? We were told again this month, sorry, it's not ready again. So I can't open a jail if it doesn't have the doors on it.
Right.
And that's where I'm at. It's not the sheriff holding it. It's been 2.5 years of this. So we will have to have a cap once it does open. It'll be a one in, one out.
And what we're doing in preparation for that opening, the judges have been working with our jail staff, and what this does come into, the one in, one out system, means that Monday, when the courts have their arraignments, if they have to put somebody in based on the nature of that crime, we have to look at the existing population, find out who may be eligible for a release those folks. But this is where that alternative program really comes into play. Electronic home monitoring, litter crew work services, community service programs. There's several programs that if we have that one in, one out system in place, it allows some population control. And we're currently trying to manage that population within the confines of how many people we can have. And there's some misunderstanding. You have actual bed space in a jail where people have a cot and they sleep. And then you have some temporary overflow capacity in which we use these plastic boats. They call them, they're beds that go on the floor with the mattresses. Those can only be used for a 3-day window, and then you have to find a bed for those people. Quite frankly, we are running about 30 inmates over our capacity at the jail.
Wow.
So our chief, under the direction of the sheriff, in working with the contract agencies we have, is finding a way to look at the current sentences and find out who's eligible for placement, who's eligible for release. Because when the jail does open, we have to find a space for 30 inmates. Some of those we will not be able to do anything with based on their sentence. And so we're going to have to maintain some contracts outside of the county to meet the needs of the system.
My concern is being told that if we go over, well, the jail's not open. We can't put these programs into place, so we're already over budget. So do we cut people again? I mean, that's, and our people are wondering, if I do my job, do I get cut, or should I just start looking somewhere else?
Right. Wow. Well, we'll continue to monitor this, talk about it with you guys, and if anybody from the county would like to come in as well, talk about this, we're more than happy to get you on. You know how to get in touch with me this coming Saturday, guys, the 8th Annual Polar Bear Plunge to help Mason County Emergency Services, another way that folks help to fundraise for a lot of the parts of the emergency services that aren't in the budget, and it is at the Alderbrook Resort. Sheriff Salisbury has also brought in some fundraising that he has done and getting ready for this thing coming up on February 4th. And you can walk around and help fill the hat as well, coming up at the Hood Canal Lions Club presenting the 8th Annual Polar Bear Plunge. And then finally, Sheriff Salisbury, you had one more thing to pass along.
I just wanted to thank, and when we're on these cases, we can't predict where people's behavior, what they're going to do and where they're going to go, which ends up involving other agencies, just like now we're involved. Another agency's had some homicides that affect our county, and so we're involved in them. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Schutte again this weekend and last week, on the phone with him constantly saying, hey, do you want us to go? Do you want us to go? And I know it's tough for him as a new commissioner, but very understanding. I appreciate that, and taking the time to listen to what we're going through. I want to thank Bonnie Lake Police Department for their assistance in that last circumstance. Where Bonnie Lake is at. The Department of Corrections, with their assistance, with their staff. The United States Marshal Service was involved with that. The Yakima County Sheriff's Office, we arranged to Yakima County. We had people that had to be involved with the Kennewick Police Department on that. So Kennewick, thank you for your help. Benton County Sheriff's Office was assisting us on that. Umatilla County Sheriff's Office in Umatilla, Oregon, along with the Pendleton Police Department and the Hermiston Police Department out of Oregon, and also the Oregon State Police. It took that many agencies to work on that case.
Wow.
And again, that's what it takes on the weekend. You've got to decide right now, do you want to go deal with this, or do we sit back and tell people we don't have any money so we don't go? And so I want to appreciate, because there's no way without those agencies over the weekend that we could have been able to locate that person.
Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, Under Sheriff Jim Barrett, thank you so much for coming on the air with me today.
Thank you.
Do you know you have access to the fastest internet in Washington State? Switch to iFiber Communications right now and take advantage of our special offers. Pay only $29.95 for 100 megabit high-speed internet, or get 3 months of internet absolutely free. That's right, $29.95 for 100 megabit speeds or 3 months of internet free. Shop, stream, and game like never before with iFiber Communications high-speed internet. Call 360-427-4000 or check us online at ifiber.tv. Subject to credit approval. Valid on a 24-month contract.